one's talking about it. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Things are changing. Gold's at 35, almost 36. It's $3,600 for God's sakes. Amazon, Bezos, and Zuckerberg dumping. Bezos has sold over $6 billion, and nobody's talking about it since June. Mike Maloney says 10,000. Every $4,000 increase in the price of gold.
Welcome to Economic News, your go-to destination for all things economics and finance. Whether you're an experienced investor, an inquisitive student, or just someone who wants to stay ahead in today's ever-changing economic landscape, you've come to the right place. Now we'll show you the best clips of the latest interview, but first, smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, and send us super thanks if you find our daily recaps valuable. Enjoy the episode.
Because there is no more demand, there is no more organic demand or a waning organic demand for the U.S. Treasury. Gold will not replace the dollar. Gold will replace what stands behind the dollar, the Treasury. And I think when you look at the price of gold, which has doubled the performance of the 10-year Treasury over the past 25 years, with no counterparty risk, think of sanctioning against the Russian $5 billion in Forex reserves, or in U.S. Treasuries, rather. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And, you know, the gold is an asset that is not simultaneously someone else's liability, and it's outperforming the heck out of the bond market. Look at, like, for example, last year. Gold was up 40%. The U.S. Treasury was up 4.5%, 10-year. Look at this year. Halfway through the year, that Treasury's up 2.5%, call it. And it's not even quite that much, but let's call it that. The dollar's down 11%, so you're negative 8.5%. Gold's up 40% again. So it's a situation where not only is it outperforming, it has no counterparty risk, which is the big deal, and it is acting, I believe, it is acting as the cornerstone to a new system. And you're seeing all of these countries embrace it in lieu of treasuries. I think it's a very big deal. I think it's a big deal for the treasury market, for the dollar, for this new system, and it's one that inspires confidence and trust rather than trusting a insolvent, broke country that is going around throwing sanctions and tariffs upon people or countries. I think much of the world has had it. It's one thing to do that and have your house in order. We are broke and we are insolvent, and after what we've gone through the last 4 years previous to this administration, with lawlessness and open borders and judicial system questioning if it's two-tiered or not, election interference or not, immigration, all of the things that we've seen that I don't need to rehash, the world is tired of it. And instead of extending the olive branch, it's the stick. And when you talk about, you know, should we be doing this with tariffs? Look, being the world reserve currency, Mario, has given us an exorbitant privilege by having the world take our or sell us their products for our dollars, and expecting them to put the reserves in treasuries has kept asset prices in this country high. It has kept goods that we purchase at Walmart low, and you know, this is our standard of living has been really fostered by the good graces of our foreign creditors, and things are changing now. So you got to wonder, this is Triffin's dilemma. If the world takes our dollars that we print out of thin air for the goods that they create with effort and sweat, and then as a result putting excess reserves in treasuries, keeps our standard of living high, our asset prices high, our interest rates low, our goods cheap, isn't that really the trade-off? And we say it's not fair, but is it really not fair? I think we should be careful what we wish for. And if I had to guess, the days of the dollar being the singular world reserve currency are coming to an end very quickly. But the latest entry into the BRICS, Vietnam. So not only do you have the hub of manufacturing with China and Vietnam and countries like that, you have the wealth of the world's natural resources. Indonesia has just joined. They have the world's largest nickel deposit. All of the countries that are interested and or have already applied to or been admitted to the BRICS are resource rich or strategically located in terms of trade routes, and underdeveloped in many cases. So this is a deal where this is all about revaluing what is important and what is considered an asset, what is considered strategic. So these countries, I think, would rather own gold and silver and rare earths and copper and than they would U.S. treasuries, which have underperformed, which can be inflated, which can be sanctioned, and are administered by a government that one would argue, if you were around the world, maybe is not aligned with their goals any longer. So, yeah, I think the biggest mistake that the people in the United States are making is underestimating and putting too much faith and credit in the U.S. system. We've become net importers of gold since November. Well over $100 billion has come in that we know of, and probably a whole lot more that we don't. Things are changing. Gold's at 35, almost 36. It's $3,600 for God's sakes, and nobody's talking about it. It's the weirdest thing, Mario. If you would have told me, I remember, I've been doing this for 36 years, almost 35, and I remember when gold finally broke through $400. What a big deal it was. You probably remember that too.
I do.
And it was a massive matter. And I would, if you had told me it will be 9 times greater than that one day, Andy. And when it is, no one's speaking about it. That's the contrarian signal. And when I examine contrarian signals, Mario, I look here in the United States. Record-setting peak investment in equities by MPA investors, the everyday investors. Record-setting peak margin involvement over $1 trillion. Record-setting peak by MPA retail investor. Record-setting peak option involvement by the retail mom and pa. So you have record-setting peak involvement in the market with borrowing and speculation. At the same time, the institutions have been unloading $2 to $4 billion a week of securities since June. Bezos and Zuckerberg liquidating. Bezos has disposed of over $6 billion of Amazon since June. You have all of these insiders that are Stanley Druckenmiller and Buffett, and they're all stating trouble ahead. Jamie Dimon, trouble ahead. They're all unloading equities. The insiders are liquidating as the retail crowd is all in. At the same time, the retail crowd has very little involvement with precious metals in the United States. Yet the largest capital in the world, who are nearest to the data, they're not only the richest or the most knowledgeable. They're draining the LBMA, certainly, and completely reclaiming all this bullion back. Now, some of it's departing COMEX. Much of it is items the coppers at COMEX. But who's conducting it? Who's bringing in billions of dollars monthly worth of gold and silver? If I were forced to choose, if I had a gun in my head, I would state it's the Treasury under the disguise of the Exchange Stabilization Fund, whereby it's American security interests. They don't need to notify Congress what they're doing. They can maintain it hidden, at least temporarily. And maybe Judy Shelton is correct. Maybe they will support the U.S. Treasury with gold on July 4th, 2026. We'll discover. She mentioned that on my program. But if I were forced to choose what's occurring, and maybe you'll think I'm insane, they passed the Genius Act, the stable coin legislation, which governs the front end of the market. It's all destined to be backed by a short-term treasury. So you produce artificial demand for the treasury market, where there is no more natural demand or a diminishing natural demand. If Trump truly wishes to restore industry, which is a worthy mission, how the hell do you achieve it with borrowing costs that are going to rise? Well, if Judy is correct, you attach gold to the back end of the market 10, 20, 30, and she even mentioned 50-year. On the 50-year, you pay perhaps 1% coupon since it's so distant, plus convertibility in gold. And as you progress shorter duration, there's no coupon, only convertibility in gold. I asked her, do you suppose that they will readjust the price of gold? She replied, yes. So, if you readjust the gold, James Rickards declares 24,000. And I'd like to gain your view on whether you believe it'll be readjusted. His figure of 24,000 he derives by dividing, I believe, M2 into the bullion supply. Mike Maloney states 10,000. Every $4,000 increase in the bullion price would grant the Treasury General account $1 trillion unrestricted. So let's just act this out. If they readjust bullion, and Rickards is correct to 24,000. Just pick a random figure. That would grant the Treasury $6 trillion unrestricted to commence reducing its liabilities. And the method that it occurs is the President instructs the Treasury Secretary, readjust bullion, inform the Federal. The Fed readjusts it. No congressional authorization. The Treasury fabricates bullion certificates, delivers them to the Federal. The Fed has entitlement to the monetary worth of the bullion, not the bullion belonging to the American citizens. The currency is generated out of thin air, which severely debases the dollar. This is the essence of it. Stephen Mirren, who just filled the empty role at the Fed, he's the writer of Marajo Accord. He desires a debased dollar to restore industry. So they readjust bullion at an extremely elevated figure, which aids every reserve bank worldwide. Not much resistance. It assists all of them. The bullion price rises dramatically. Now, you can connect it to the Treasury. Like Judy says, the action of debasing the bullion and having bullion redemption on treasuries with essentially zero coupon, no interest rate, permits you to restore your industry at zero borrowing charges. Yes, you must repay the bullion later, but you restore industry at a zero coupon, no borrowing charges. And then, simultaneously, you have a hugely debased dollar, which enables you to market your industry throughout the planet. I could picture them doing this, where they state, look, we've ruined matters in a major way. We don't have the demand for the Treasury we need anymore. What should we do? Well, we established the Stablecoin Act, the Genius Act, which produces up to $2 trillion annually, according to, what's his title? The Treasury Secretary, Patton's calculation, to manage the government's routine operations by the front end of the curve. The back end is at zero coupon convertibility in bullion. Restore your industry in a greatly debased dollar and market your way out. Expand your way out of this crisis. There's no other method but to inflate or hyperinflate or default. Now, the only issue is I could imagine universal basic income being part of this, since it will be very costly to purchase daily goods in that framework. But I could imagine the president stating, this is our sole chance for our children and our grandchildren. We must restore our industry, and if we fail to achieve it in the face of a hugely debased dollar, no one's going to purchase our products. In other terms, Vice President Vance summarized all this on White House letterhead. Mario, he declared, Triffin's dilemma is such that holding the world reserve currency right now is not an advantageous arrangement for us at all. Our gutted industry base is not improving. AI is going to cripple numerous occupations. He declared Triffin's dilemma is such that maybe it's simply not an advantageous arrangement for us anymore. If I were forced to choose, my opinion is that they are executing this deliberately. Debase the dollar, readjust bullion, connect it to the back end of the market with nearly zero interest rates to restore industry and market our way out of this product. Because as it exists right now, we cannot generate our way out. And as Richard Russell, my guide, God rest his soul, stated to me 15 years ago, Andy, the Fed's trapped. They either inflate or they perish. This is alternative 3, gentle default on the dollar in an attempt to restore industry through the bond market, which is attached to bullion because it lacks any demand. And the operation of the nation, the financing of the government's routine requirements, would be through the Genius Act, the Stablecoin Act, which every company on the planet that is going to trade in dollars will issue stable coins, which will all be backed one-to-one by U.S. treasuries. What say you? Am I insane? Am I on something? Or maybe even possibly on to something? As a past bond trader, I would value your view. The caution couldn't be louder. Yet, the globe declines to pay attention. Bullion at $10,000 an ounce might appear unthinkable until the instant it's fact. And when it occurs, it won't be the insiders or billionaires abandoned. It will be everyone else.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel. Your comments are very valuable to us. Please make a small comment.